Hi, this is Alan Olsen, and welcome to American Dreams. My guest today is General Michael Barbero. General, welcome to today's show.
Thanks, Alan. How are you? Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Okay, so it's exciting. We've been in contact with each other on a couple occasions, and I really look forward to hearing your story today. I'd like to start off by having you walk through with our listeners your career path and what inspired you to join the military.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I was thinking about that, and given that this is called American Dreams, I'm kind of the product of the American dream. All my grandparents were immigrants on my mom's side and dad's side. Obviously, my mom and dad were the first of their families born in the U.S., first of their families to attend and graduate from university. My dad graduated from NYU with an engineering degree. The only way he could get through NYU and pay for it was through ROTC. So he had a 2-year commitment, and then he had a job as an engineer lined up. But the problem was he graduated in June of 1941. And, 5 years later, at the end of the war, he liked the Army and stayed in it and retired as a colonel with an MBA from University of Chicago. My mom graduated from West Virginia University, joined the Red Cross, and ended up in Italy, where she met my dad, and the rest is history. So I was born in an Army hospital in Stuttgart, Germany, where my dad was stationed, grew up around the Army, and was very proud of my dad and his service, and thought about it as something I wanted to try to emulate. And followed my brother. He was 2 years ahead of me at West Point, and followed him into West Point. And, just loved the Army and loved the folks I was working with, and the sense of urgency, the mission, and frankly, the opportunity to serve. My dad, later in life, my sister asked him, why did he stay in the Army? The war was over. You got a job lined up. You wanted to be an engineer. You love engineering. He said, well, I always wanted to give something back to the country that gave so much to my family. So I guess that's, a long answer of how I ended up in the Army and why I decided to stay and serve.
Well, thank you for your family's service and your service. Throughout the 37 years of service, though, what are some of the most challenging moments, and how did you overcome them?
Well, my career, especially the last 10 years as a general officer, I was either a commander or an operations officer, where an operations officer, you take these, difficult missions and you turn them into a plan, a strategy, a campaign plan, and then supervise the execution. I spent 46 months in Iraq. First year was 12 months during the initial year as an assistant division commander of 20,000 troops, very tough area, Baghdad North. Our headquarters was in Saddam Hussein's hometown, so we were not the most popular folks there. Then I went back another 17 straight months as the operations officer during what we called the surge, when Dave Petraeus came back in and we came with a new strategy, 40,000 additional troops, 2007 to 2008. And then 2009, 10, 11, I was there another 17 straight months as the deputy commander and NATO commander. Service in Iraq was obviously the most challenging, and because of the toll it takes, it's unceasing demands, so mental, physical, emotional. It's 24/7, and plus, Alan, the stakes are so high. We had a lot of casualties, especially that first year. And you as a commander, my way I operate is whenever we had a casualty, I'd get alerted immediately, and the next day I'd go down and see the commander and sit down with him and look him in the eye and say, "How you doing? What are we going to do to get this unit back out on a patrol or operating? We got to get them back out there." And then we'd have these memorial services, which were very emotional and taxing. That time in Iraq was kind of like dog years when you think about all the pressures and demands on you. I had the advantage of coming back to either a unit, being around my buddies, or my family, came back to my family, or I came back and went to a new assignment. And I always thought about these young soldiers who, especially National Guardsmen, who come back and they just go back home and there's no support network or anything like that. So I just, offer this to your listeners and viewers, that if you get an opportunity to contribute to or help out a veterans organization, I would highly recommend it.
Thank you. I want to move into going into the current events. So, given your expertise, how do you view the current geopolitical tension in the regions such as the Middle East, Eastern Europe, and the South China Seas?
Well, they're all related. We're in a period of great power competition once again. I think primarily the United States and China. And as you look at that, what we do or don't do in Ukraine matters to that. Russia is a second-rate power with nuclear weapons. It's really about the U.S. and China, and how we support Ukraine in this fight against Russia. What we do about Iran, which is the greatest source of instability in the Middle East. They're working against our national interests every day. What are we going to do about that? And plus, we have to think about America's role in the world in light of our, the disastrous way we exited Afghanistan. That resonated. Whenever I do a lot of business overseas, talk to folks, and then that invariably comes up. It really, and then when they hear this, our faltering commitment to Ukraine, the current relationship where we have with Israel, where we can be viewed as undercutting their efforts, it all resonates across the world. So in this period of great power competition, what we do or don't do in one region all resonates. It's not isolated acts. So, I just finished reading The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, William Shire's history, and the parallels between the 1930s and Putin and Russia are striking. And the real question is, where's our Churchill? Who is going to rally the free world? And where is the U.S. as the leader of the free world? Appeasement doesn't work. Strength does work. Putin is a KGB thug. He understands strength, weakness, and use of force. And if we want a prosperous and secure world, if we want a world where Russia and China aren't aligned against us, then we need to stand fast and do the job in Ukraine. And that will send a message to China, Iran, and the others, opponents in the world, that America is a source of strength and will secure our future for the next decades.
Do you have any thoughts on the importance of alliances and partnerships in maintaining global peace and security?
Well, I think NATO speaks for itself. I've been a NATO officer in Iraq. My last time as a 3-star, I was the deputy U.S. commander and the NATO commander. I was a senior NATO commander there. So I saw it firsthand. We had a small little NATO command in Iraq, but man, they punched above their weight. When you have 17 flags out there, it really carried some weight. And I think collective deterrence has proven to be a success. And when you work together in an alliance, you're securing America's interests. So any money, time, effort put into deterrence is not wasted energy or money. So I absolutely believe that alliances work. And I'd say that to this audience, there's a great hunger for American business and technology overseas. They want American, whether it's the Middle East, I was in Turkey, they want American. So what we can do in business, I know since I've left the military, what can we do to bring American investment, technology, joint ventures overseas? I think that's a powerful way of building alliances that withstand the political election year rhetoric here in the U.S., and it's something that we could all contribute to. So absolutely, alliances are the way to go, whether it's for security or business. It just helps American interests.
And throughout your career, both in military and civilian roles, you've held leadership positions that require making tough decisions. What advice would you give to emerging leaders on navigating complex challenges?
Well, you have, I've seen a series of your podcasts, and you have the experts in business and technology and how to grow business and investments in the world. So I'll take a little different tack. I'm not going to give any advice on software, hardware, business practices. But what I found successful in my Army career and, in my time in business is a leader must invest the time to build a culture in the company. What are the values? What are the standards? How are we going to operate? What's acceptable? What's unacceptable? That really forms the true strength of an organization. And in the military, I was an infantry leader. It was how do I build trust? Trust is the most important thing, whether it's the military or business. And, it's got to be mutual. So when I'd give an order for a tough mission to one of my subordinates, he would follow it because he trusted that I had his best interest. It was going to be a hard mission, but I wasn't going to waste energy or casualties, or it was the best course of action that I could come up with. He trusted me. And when I gave him that order and he'd say, yes, sir, I got it, I trusted him to do it. And I think that carries over to business. How, what do you stand for? What are we? What are our values? And then you have to communicate those, over-communicate those. So you have to get around and talk and be visible. The most effective leaders are the ones who are visible and communicating well with their leaders. So building this culture of trust, mutual trust, it requires a continuous investment by the leader's time and attention, but it pays off, better than some new software or hardware does. And it's something that I think is a prime requirement for leadership.
Transitioning from a military to civilian career, what key lessons have you learned about adaptability and applying military leadership skills in the business world?
Right. Well, there is some carryover. I will quote one of my mentors and best friends, Dave Petraeus, who has, solidified this into what he sees as the 4 rules of strategic leadership. And like I worked for him a couple times in Iraq, and he's the master of this. The first one is the prime responsibility of a senior leader is to get the big ideas right. What are the priorities? What are the big efforts that we are going to expend our time and energy and resources to achieve? And then within that, you have to understand the context. So the senior leader sets these priorities, these big ideas, but he has to understand the context in which you're operating, the business context, the investment, or the market situation. Or if you're in Iraq, how do you change your strategy to apply to that context? And then the leader's responsibility, which I touched on earlier, is he must be a communicator to communicate the priorities, the big ideas to his subordinates continuously and effectively. And then the fourth one is you have to execute. You have to oversee the implementation and make adjustments along the way. So it's a continuous sensing of where we are, a feel for things, and then making adjustments. And then I added a fifth one. I think as leaders, you have to identify what are the golden metrics, what are the key indicators that you're having success today and you're on the glide path for tomorrow. And then once you understand what those metrics are, you have to pay attention to them, peel them back. Okay, we're having a problem in this area. Why is it? And peel it back to its essence. And then you have to act to make those adjustments. So I think those are things that we've learned in the military. I think that carries over to whatever venture or enterprise you're in, whether it's business or whatever.
Now, since retiring, you've transitioned into roles that leverage your expertise in security and strategic consulting. What motivated you as a founder of MDB Partners, LLC, and the focus on your emerging markets?
Well, Alan, what I didn't want to do when I retired is I worked for the biggest bureaucracy in the world, the Department of Defense. I didn't want to go work for a big defense company. Nothing against them. They're the best in the world, and a lot of my great friends are doing wonderful things there. But that just wasn't attractive to me. And I started getting calls from friends overseas. Can you come over? We've got these projects. Can you bring America companies or American investment? So I just started doing that, and it evolved. My last job in the Army, I had the job to go after the roadside bombs, these IEDs, and I had a $2.4 billion budget. I had rapid acquisition. I could buy mostly anything within days, and I had the technology and capabilities and responsibilities to do that. So we went out. We bought sensors at 40,000 feet, all the way down to bomb dogs that sniffed and detected bombs. So it was almost like an investment fund, and with rapid acquisition. So we were looking for game-changing technologies or practices, anything in innovation. So I said, this is a tremendous, challenging job. I want to do the same thing here. So I look for innovative products, people I like working with, and in areas of the world where I think are important to U.S. interests. The Middle East. I was just in Turkey last week, North Africa, and the Balkans, and a number of different areas. I'm working for a couple of, defense firms, some financial firms that invest in emerging technologies in the defense world, but also some infrastructure projects and, a number of different ventures. So that's how I kind of got into it and evolved to what I'm doing now.
When we're looking ahead, what trends do you believe will shape the global security of strategic consulting in the next decade?
Well, as I said, we have to accept this period of great power competition, whether we want it or not. China is in it, and we have got to realize that and react. And we have to reassert ourselves as a reliable ally. And I think U.S. businesses can have a tremendous role in that. Being expeditionary, joint ventures, exporting U.S. talent, technology, and leadership. I think that's, this project I'm doing in Turkey, the Turkish company said, we want an American construction company. Can you bring us one? And they still want American. So I think those are the trends that I see. We have to be out there, be expeditionary, and look for opportunities to spread U.S. businesses, investment, and technologies around the world.
When you're looking at artificial intelligence and automation technology, you have any thoughts on how it can reshape defense and security strategies globally?
Well, I mean, we're all watching what happens in Ukraine, and it's fascinating to see the evolution of the battlefield and strategy and warfare. I think, advanced sensors, AI-enabled capabilities, hybrid war, open source intelligence. I mean, commercial drones flying, which are feeding real-time intelligence back to headquarters, cyber. I think the question as we go forward is how can we push command and control, decision-making, intelligence, situational awareness, and capabilities to what I call the tactical edge, down to that platoon leader. How can he see what's over the next hill and be able to understand that in real time? Or the cockpit, or how can that pilot transfer it to his unarmed wingman? That's a strike platform without a pilot, or to a ship's captain. So the battlefield is becoming more distributed. The demands for intelligence and information and decision-making ability are being pushed to the lowest levels, and we need to have capabilities that can do that. We are in the age of cheap, swarming autonomous systems that are very capable. The American military is built upon very large, very expensive platforms that are very few. Aircraft carriers, I think we have 10 or 12 of those. F-35s, a couple billion a pop. M1 tanks. How do we make this transition to this, what we're seeing in Ukraine, smaller, cheaper swarms, large numbers of very capable platforms that are somewhat expendable, unmanned? So I think we have a lot of tough questions that we can ask ourselves for the future of the U.S. defense that we need to take on and really study and think about.
Are there any projects that you're currently working on that you're particularly excited about?
Well, there's one project I'm very passionate about. A couple of years ago, we lost our only daughter to cancer, and she was an Army kid. She loved the Army, grew up, born in an Army hospital, went to, I think, 8, 9 schools. The longest place she ever lived in one spot was her 4 years at Xavier University in Cincinnati as a college student. So she grew up around the Army, loved it. She loved her time at Xavier, great university. And then, after she graduated in the workforce, she'd always look for opportunities to help veterans organizations or veterans businesses. She'd say, "Hey, Dad, this new company opened. It's run by veterans. I bought this for you, or let's go grab a coffee at this veterans coffee shop that just opened," and things like that. So when she got sick, we spent a lot of time together. And one of the things she had a very successful career in the U.S. government in data science and data analytics, very important job in the intelligence community. So we spent a lot of time together when she was diagnosed, when she was sick. And one of the things she said that stuck with me is she said, "Dad, I'm so young. I'm afraid that when I pass, I'll be forgotten." So after she passed, I picked up the phone and called Xavier University. I said, hey, here's who we are. Here's our story. What can I do to start a scholarship in my daughter's name so she won't be forgotten? And we'd like to do something for military kids or veterans. So Xavier started a scholarship in her name, and it's targeted towards veterans or military kids like she was, who want to pursue a career in one of two honors programs, either data science or public service. And so Xavier has been unbelievable. And so we're focused a lot of our efforts, our family trust will go to that. And it's just been a very bright spot for us in a very dark chapter, and something that we're very passionate about. If any of your listeners want to go, Google Emily Barbero and Xavier University, you'll see it and see what it stands for. And I can't say enough about the folks at Xavier and what they've done to help us do this. So that's one of the things that we're very, very passionate about.
Thank you. A noble cause, and a way to honor the memories of your daughter.
Thanks, Harold.
We're out of time today, but before we go, a person that would like to reach out and chat with you on some of the projects that they have that may be aligned with you, how would they go ahead and contact you, General?
Well, I'm up on LinkedIn. Contact me on LinkedIn or my email. If it's okay, I could give you my email here. It's Barbero, M as in Michael Barbero, Barbero 76 @gmail.com. And please reach out to me. I love having conversations and see if we can have a good chat.
Well, it's been a pleasure having you with us here today on American Dreams.
Alan, thank you very much. I really enjoyed it. I appreciate it.